Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are doing a deck tech for Dr. Eggman. Dr. Eggman is a 5-mana human scientist with flying and he is a 3/6. He says, at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Then each opponent faces a villainous choice. That player discards a card, or you may put a construct, robot, or vehicle card from your hand onto the battlefield. So this is Grixis Construct Tribal. So why play Eggman? Because Sonic is a cool franchise. Dr. Robotnik, he's a funny guy. Dr. Eggman, he's funny, he's cool. I always grew up playing a lot of those games. So I really do like this whole secret lair. He's also a really unique commander that can sneak in big dudes. So the way I look at this, right, is there's two ways you can build him. You can build him discard, or you can build him constructs, robots, and vehicles. I don't really think there was a ton of big value vehicles, and there really aren't that many super great robots for the deck, so we went very heavily into construct, right? So he punishes each opponent, right, at the end of our turn. We either get a free dude, and our dudes cost a good chunk, or they discard a card, which is fine either way, right? And the really nice thing about him is that each player chooses this, or each opponent chooses this. So even on an average scenario, and probably like the most realistic scenario, each opponent just discards a card at the end of our turn and we have a flying 3/6 blocker. Now he sounds like he's like a really big threat too. I like the politics with him, because people are like, yeah, he's just like a 3/6 that makes me discard a card at the end of the turn. Like, what am I going to do? Like, it's not really like you could waste a kill spell on them, but then they're functionally discarding a card. But it's also cool politics, because they're like, well, if I kill him, then like everyone else will have to suffer too. No one's probably going to let us sneak in a free robot. They're probably only going to do that if they have a card that they really, really like, or if they have like no cards in hand. We're not very heavy discard, but either way, he's really mean to our opponents. And the top end is we get a free dude. And on top of that, he draws a card at the end of our turn, which is really, really nice. And then the final point, 3/6, he's a good blocker. We're not attacking with this dude. We're not doing anything with him. He's just there to exist and draws cards and make our opponent discard. So the game plan is that we don't really need him to win. Like, he's cool. He punishes opponents. He has fun politics. But we're just Construct Tribal at the end of the day. Like, we're just going to play a bunch of artifact creatures and attack. So early game, we're going to want to drop some ramp and some small value dudes, which are really just like rocks to get us. That's really the only ramp we have in Grixis, is some good rocks and really just small guys that we're probably not going to cheat out, or maybe some of our dudes that aren't really constructs. Then mid game, we're going to play him just to hate on hands or play big guys. He's really just there for fun, really good flavor. And I just like him because he's a big politic piece. Ultimately, like, that's why I think he's a fun way to have, because no one individually is going to want to get rid of him. That's how I think about it, because no one's going to be like discarding a card is that big of a deal. And then late game, we're going to attack with an army of artifacts while our opponents ideally don't have many cards in hand. Let's get into it. Channel and deck stuff. The deck is like 465 at the making of this video. Take it like always, take it with a grain of salt, right? This is like always assuming that like you buy the exact list, you already don't have anything in your collection. Like, each land is going for like 20 cents. Like, each basic land is like 20 cents. So take it already with a grain of salt. You can cut some of the pricier lands out of it just to save yourself 10, 15 bucks here or there. But if you don't want to do that, get the cards you need right from the link down below. And as always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. So going into it, Planeswalkers, Tezzeret Master of the Bridge, and Tezzeret the Seeker. Big thing about Tez Master of the Bridge. Creatures and Planeswalker spells you cast have affinity for artifacts, so really just all of our creatures have affinity for artifacts. We don't really care. Like, obviously it'd be nice if we get a discount on Tez the Seeker, but that's the only other Planeswalker. But it's really just all of our creatures have affinity for artifacts, so ideally they all cost like nothing. He's really great because we can +2 him to just make each opponent lose a lot of life and us gain a lot of life. -3 him to really just get some good recursion. And then ideally, we can -8 them, exile the top 10 cards of your deck, put all artifacts from among them onto the battlefield. That'd be cool, but realistically, I think he's really just there for the affinity and to laser people and gain us a lot of life. Tez the Seeker, on the other hand, is very, very good. +1 him, untap up to 2 target artifacts, which is really good. We can get some weird shenanigans going on by tapping, like, say, a Soul Ring and then an Arcane Signet, and then +1ing them and then untapping them, so that can kind of, in a weird way, pay for himself. But the real meat and cheese of this whole dude is his -X. Search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle our deck. So if we want him to stick around, we just -4 him and he is a hard tutor, straight to the field, which is really, really good. And then if we can make artifacts you control 5/5 creatures until end of turn. All of our guys are pretty big anyway, so it's not really the big thing. Plus, we're almost always going to want to minus him right away. And then a weird, funny thing you can do with him is you can -0 him and search your deck for an artifact land and put it straight to the field, which is really cool. Going into creatures, Kinetic Spider is not a construct, robot, or a vehicle. It's a spider. But whenever another artifact creature or vehicle enters a battlefield under our control, draw a card. We don't have a lot of vehicles. We have very few robots, maybe even one robot, but it's mostly constructs. And just whenever a guy enters, draw a card, pretty good. Chaos Defiler is an absolute stinker. Trample, 5/4. When it enters or dies for each opponent, choose a non-land permanent that player controls, and then destroy one of them at random. So you just tally up the biggest threats each of your opponent has, roll a die, get rid of one of them at random on ETB and death, which is really good. And again, we can cheese these guys into play if someone lets us, but they're probably not, right? So we want to have our constructs be a reasonable cost, just so we can still play them naturally, while also having it be value enough to be like, Chief of the Foundry is one we're not going to cheese in, just because he costs 3 mana. But like Chaos Defiler, like 5 mana free dude, why not? Now, Chief of the Foundry, other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. Short, sweet, to the point, he's a construct. Looks good to me. Cityscape Leveler. Now that's a big construct. Like, this is the kind of construct we want to cheat into play. Trample, when we cast it and whenever he attacks, destroy up to one target non-land permanent, and then they can have a Power Stone, and then we can unearth him later, which we're probably not going to do very well. But he's like a big dude. Like, if we can cheese a guy into play with Eggman, that's what we want to get in. Coalstoke, Gearhulk. All the Gearhulks are constructs, which is great. He's got Menace and Death Touch. When he enters, basically reanimate a 4 or less value creature from our grave to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, and it gets Menace, Death Touch, and haste, and we exile it on our end step. Exile it. So it's just a quick, cheeky little reanimate that gets Menace, Death Touch, and haste, just for like any of our small guys. Why not, right? Combustible Gearhulk. Like, the Gearhulks are good to cheese in with Eggman if we can, just because all of the Gearhulks have an end of the battlefield ability, which is very, very nice. First Strike, 6/6 for 6, right? When he enters, target opponent may have us draw 3 cards. If they don't, we mill 3 cards, and then he deals damage equal to that player, equal to the total mana value of the cards milled. Here's a great example, right? Cityscape Lever cost 8, Coalstoke cost 5, Gearhulk cost 6. Total it up, I'm not good at math. What is that, 18 off the top of my head? Probably not, right? Either way, really, really good when we have like a kind of generally high CMC deck. Don't make fun of me in the comments too much. Crypto Thrall, 4 mana 3/3. Other artifact creatures you control have hexproof. It's a construct. Looks good to me, right? Cyberdrive Awakener is another good ETB ability, but it's not really one we want to cheese in on the end step. So other artifact creatures you control have flying, it has flying, and when it enters, each non-creature artifact you control becomes functionally a flying 4/4 until end of turn, which is really good. Like, it's a cool finisher if we want to animate like all of our talismans and all of our other little doodads, just for like a quick kill. But even if we don't do that, like, just having our guys fly is very good anyways, and it's a flying 4/4. Cybermen Patrol. Not a lot of our constructs have trample or anything. Like, a lot of them are just big dudes that can very well get blocked. So making them have Afflict 3 is like, even if they get blocked, they're still losing a lot of life, which is fine with me. Cybermen Squadron. Non-legendary artifact creatures you control have Myriad, which is really good when we have a lot of like these ETB abilities like the Gearhulks we just saw. And also, they're just big dudes, so when they attack, cool things happen. Davros Dalek Creator. He's got Menace. At the beginning of your end step, we make a 3/3 artifact Dalek with Menace if an opponent lost 3 or more life this turn, which pretty much hopefully they do. And then each opponent who lost 3 or more life this turn faces a villainous choice. We draw a card or they discard a card. So he kind of doubles up Eggman's end of turn with the discard if our opponents are losing life, or we're just drawing a card. Either way, they're probably going to let us just draw a card, because I don't think that our opponents are going to want to discard a card for nothing rather than just for nothing giving us a card. he kind of functions with the deck. I don't know. I just like the whole villainous choice kind of thing, and he makes little dudes. Depth Shaker Titan is a brand new card from Edge of Eternities. When he enters, any number of target non-creature artifacts you control become 3/3 artifacts. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step, which sounds not good. But each artifact creature you control has melee, trample, and haste, which is very, very good. Now, the reason I like him, and very realistically, I think, when he enters, we're probably not going to have any of our non-creature artifacts become 3/3s. Like, very realistically, we just don't want to do that. Because we don't want to kill him just to sneak in for like 4 damage with the melee. But each artifact creature having melee, trample, and haste is really, really good, because at the very worst, it is just a big lord that really enables all of our guys. Like, this is a guy we would like to, he's good at any point. Cheat him in, or why not? Who cares? Emery, Lurker, the Lock, all of these guys, none of them are constructs, but I think they like them. Emery is almost always 1 mana, 1/2. When she enters, mill 4, and then just like once a turn, we can just recast a card from our graveyard, which is really nice. Just, it's fine recursion, just gives us access to a little bit. Enthusiastic Mechanaut, just a flying, makes our artifacts cost 1 less. He is an artifact, just, easy. Ethereum Sculptor also makes our artifacts cost 1 less, just for a cheap, 2 mana effect is very nice. Like, those are the kind of guys early game I'm talking about. Boundary Inspector is an artifact construct that also makes our artifacts cost 1 less, because, hey, that's kind of our whole deck. Kuldotha Forge Master is a cool construct because at instant speed, we can tap him and sacrifice 3 artifacts to then search our deck for any artifact and sneak it right into play. Which is really, really nice, because we can get big dudes like Metalwork Colossus or any of the Gear Hulks. Now, Metalwork Colossus never costs 11. He costs X less to cast, where X is the total CMC cost of non-creature artifacts. So even like our non-creatures, even if we have like a Soul Ring or a Talisman, like just those 2 would make him cost 3 less right off the rip. And then he never really dies, because we can just sacrifice 2 artifacts, just whatever, to return him from our grave to our hand, which is really nice. Mer Battlesphere. 7 mana, 4/7, weird PT. When he enters, make 4 1/1 mirror. Like, this is a good construct to cheese in, because it's like, we get a 4/7 that also then makes some buddies. Whenever he attacks, we can tap X untapped mirror we control, and then if we do, this creature gets +X+O and deals X damage to defending player or planeswalker it's attacking. I like him just because he makes a lot of dudes. Like, we can like sacrifice these kind of guys to like Kuldotha Forge Master or whatever. Noxious Gearhulk enters, destroy another creature. If a creature is destroyed, we gain life equal to its toughness. Like an Oil Deed Gearhulk, like these are good guys that we can just play naturally or cheese in if given the opportunity. Lifelink and Ward 1 for some reason. When he enters, look at target player's hand, then you can choose a card from it, and they discard it, and then they draw a card. So we can just kind of pick apart their hand, which is really nice. Padim Console of Innovation gives our artifacts hexproof, and then effectively for our deck, we're going to draw a card, an additional card on our upkeep, because I don't think anyone's really topping us. Phyrexian Metamorph costs 3 mana and 2 life to cast, and it just enters as basically the best artifact or creature on the battlefield. That's really it. Just whatever it is, if it copies a Gearhulk 2, cool, whatever. Roaming Throne, you can do 2 things with, right? It's a golem, don't get me wrong, but depending on what you say when he enters, it's also good. He's got Ward 2. You can either say, like, human to proc Eggman, or we can say construct. So Roaming Throne, we go to our end step if it's on human, and then we double up Eggman's ability, right? Now that's like pretty cool. So now like everyone has to do that ability twice. So they're like discarding 2 cards, or they're letting us cheese in 2 things, which is cool. Or we can say construct, which kind of doubles up also all of our ETB and attack triggers of basically our whole deck. So kind of depending on what you want to do, it's good either way. It kind of curves right where you need it to be depending on your hand. Scrap Trawler, whenever it or another artifact is put into the graveyard, return to your hand, target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser CMC. Hey, that's pretty good. It's really just like, yeah, one thing dies, we get another thing back. Scrapyard Recombiner, we're a construct deck, and this guy says sacrifice an artifact, search your deck for a construct, and put it into your hand. He's got modular 2, so he enters with 2 1/1 counters, and then when it dies, you can move its 1/1 counters to another artifact creature. So we can also very well just sacrifice him, move 2 1/1 counters to something else, and then search our deck for basically any of our creatures. Steel Overseer is a very short, sweet, to the point, really just for any kind of battle cruiser deck like this. Put a counter on each of our artifact creatures, including itself, just as a tap ability, is pretty solid. The Valeyard, Time Lord Noble, not relevant whatsoever. If an opponent would face a villainous choice, they do it again. So now, Eggman's thing happens twice, which is really nice. There's no voting card that really is going to happen in this deck, but I like how it doubles up Eggman's ability. Thought Monitor never costs 7 mana, it just enters probably for like 3 mana and it draws us 2 cards, which is really nice. Torrential Gearhulk enters and we can cast target instant or sorcery from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. It's short, sweet, to the point. We're just going to get any kind of removal or a counter spell depending on whatever we cast it, just to sneak something in real quick. And at the very worst, it's a flashy 5/6 blocker. Finally, we have Urza, Lord High Artificer, because he enters and then he makes constructs and then he turns all of our artifacts into, you know, a Mox Sapphire. And then whenever we feel like it, we can just start tapping our stuff to exile the top card of our deck and just play it for free. Now, Y'shtola I really like in this deck for 2 reasons. One, at the beginning of your end, let me just read it. At the beginning of your end step, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it's a good blink ETB ability for any of our guys really with an ETB. Then, if it's the first end step of the turn, there's an additional end step. So what's very cool about it is that's going to trigger Eggman twice, which is really, really nice. And we get to blink another creature. So really, we go to the end of our turn, just with her, we blink 2 creatures and trigger Eggman twice. And even if we blink Urza, like cool, we just make 2 constructs, which is very solid. Going into other really double-sided creatures, we have Slicer, Hired Muscle, I think is really cool, and I think he'd be really nice to cheat into play. He's a 3/4 with double strike and haste, right? If he comes in on our end step, right, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, so they'll just get him right away, you may have that player gain control of Slicer until end of turn, and then if you do, you untap him, and then you goad him, and he can't be sacrificed, right? So he's ultimately just, we give him to our opponents, and he's like a 3/4 beater that can't attack us with double strike and haste. And if we choose not to do that, we can just flip him over to our side and just have him be a living metal vehicle. So he's always just a vehicle that's online with first strike haste. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, we just flip him back over. Ideally, I like the idea of giving them to our opponents and making them smack everyone. And then the final creature we have is Tegra, God of Fright. Ultimately, whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a card on our end step that they will do, we essentially get it, right? So ideally, we can just start, when our opponents are discarding cards, it adds an extra bit of awkwardness, because it's like, hey, do you want to discard a card to Eggman and then give us the card you discarded? Or would you rather me just sneak in a funny robot? It's up to them. I put in Tegrid's backside. Tegrid's backside. So sick. Anyways, Tegrid's Lantern at the backside of the card. We can tap it to make a player lose 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. And then we can just, it's on a stick, pay 4 mana to untap it, which is also really nice. So we can ideally just like, end of turn, tap it, untap it, tap it. It's a good mana sink, but we're almost always playing the face card. Going into sorceries, we have Fabricate, search your deck for an artifact, put it in our hand, easy. Reanimate just puts target creature card from our graveyard onto the battlefield. We'll lose life equal to its mana value, which is a bit awkward, but I mean, ultimately, who cares? It's just like if someone kills any of our things or makes us discard something, we just get something back. Their Name is Death, very cool sorcery, destroy all non-artifact creatures. Hey, that's like our whole deck is safe, so it doesn't really affect us. Thoughtcast is functionally 1 mana sorcery to draw 2 cards, and Toxic Deluge I really do like, because we're going to say minus maybe 5 even, just because a lot of our constructs are pretty big, and just wiping away everything. Eggman's a 3/6, so like he's pretty easy to not have die through this kind of ability, and it will wipe off all of our opponent's stuff. Going into instance, Arcane Denial and Counterspell, really just countering spells we don't like. Arcane Denial leads to lets us draw a card. Desynchronization I like, because it returns each non-land permanent that's not historic to its owner's hand, and hey, artifacts and legendaries are historic, we don't care about sagas. Either way, we're most likely bouncing our opponent's boards, or at least most of their boards, and all of our stuff stays. And then finally, we have Cyclonic Rift. It's alright, I like Cyclonic Rift. It's when we're kind of like a bit of a slower deck. I do like the idea of just having an instant speed board wipe. The only thing I'm really not a fan of Cyclonic Rift, it's just too good really to not have. I mean, you can make any kind of cut you want to the deck, really. But it's like, it just kind of gives them more discard fodder. But if we're about to lose the game, or we have a situation where we can win the game, we're going to want to do it. Going into artifacts, we have Arcane Signet and Felwar Stone, which basically just let us tap for any color. Functionally, that's really what they both let us do. Geth's Grimoire is really great because whenever an opponent discards a card from their hand, we may draw a card, which makes it even more awkward for our opponents on our end step because it's now just not like, oh yeah, like I'm just going to discard a card to make you not put in a little robot. It's now like, okay, well, if you discard a card, I'm going to have to discard a card to then give you a card, or I'm going to have to just give you a robot and then you don't draw. Either way, very solid. Lightning Greaves, we're just going to put them on Eggman. We just don't want them to die. Nautiloid Ship, I think it's real good. Just exile target player's graveyard. When it deals combat damage to a player, put a creature card exile with Nautiloid Ship onto the battlefield under our control. And it has Crew 3, and let me tell you, Eggman is a 3/6. So I like the idea of playing this turn 4, exiling like a Reanimator player's graveyard, or really anything with a handful of creatures in it. Playing this, playing Eggman the next turn, crewing with Eggman, sneaking in, hitting Nautiloid Ship, stealing a creature. And either way, it's just exile target player's graveyard at the very worst. Reaver Titan, protection from mana value 3 or less, so that's a lot of removal. That is a lot of removal. And then whenever it attacks, laser each opponent for 5 damage. And it's an attacking 10/10 that can't be blocked by little dinguses, only big creatures. So really great. Crew 4 is a bit awkward, but it's going to get to a point in the game where our cost reducers are going to be like I don't know, any of the lords like Chief of the Foundry or Foundry Inspector. Like, they're not our big damage guys. They're going to be crewing our stuff. We have Sculpting Steel to have the basically 2 copies of the best artifact on the battlefield, which might as well be Simulacrum Synthesizer because it enters Scry 2. Whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters, make a construct that gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. 2 of those is really, really good. Sky Sovereign, console flagship. I do like the idea of cheating this in at the end of turn, just because it enters or attacks, deals 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. So it's kind of like, I like the idea of we go to the end of our turn, one person says we can have a robot or whatever, and we just like sneak this in and then we kill one of their things. Or it's even cool politics because it's like, hey, if you say I can have a robot into play instead of discarding the card and show them that you have Sky Sovereign, be like, I'll do this and I won't touch your creature. Like, I'll kill a mutual problem creature for the both of us. So it's really cool. I really like Eggman because he's such cool politics. And either way, enters or attacks, deal 3 damage to whatever, very solid. We have Soul Ring because it's Soul Ring. Strionic Resonator is really nice just because we can copy Eggman's ability because it's a triggered ability on the end step, which is really nice. Unwinding Clock, untap all of our artifacts during each other player's end step. We have a lot of artifacts, that's mostly our whole deck, and we have a handful of artifact lands too, so we can always hold up a little bit of mana. We have all of the talismans, which are great. That's really it. There's not a lot of ramp in Grixis other than these bad boys, so we're going to take it. Going into enchantments, I think it's just this. Liliana's Caress, whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. You know, it's fine. Like, it's really just to de-incentivize people from discarding cards, or at least making it more annoying if they discard cards, right? Which is fine. Rhystic Study, there to tax our opponent and draw us a lot of cards. Wasteland is also really good. Again, another just like, guys, stop discarding cards, let us cheat in big robots. Because if they discard cards, and it hits each opponent too, which is really nice, because they get to like pick. So we have potential 3 robots coming in, or 3 cards being discarded, or a mix. Probably 3 cards being discarded. But we can make zombies, we can get some mana, and then we can draw cards with Waste Not, which is very solid. Going into lands, you know, honestly, it's nothing too crazy. I have all of the shock lands in this list. I put in all of the check lands, all of the, I don't even know what to call these guys, the vow lands, the hunt lands, whatever they are. But going into it, I put in all of the monocolor artifact lands because they count as artifacts if we have like one of those 0/0 constructs that gets +1/+1 for each artifact we control. This thing makes them bigger. Same thing with all of the bridge lands. They're indestructible, which is really, really cool. And again, when we have cards like Unwinding Clock, we can start untapping these and doing all this cool nonsense with it. We also have Academy Ruins. We're not in the cycle lands anymore. It's really nice just to be like, yeah, end of your turn before I draw, I'm just going to put an artifact card from my grave on top of my deck. So basically I'll draw that for turn. Archway of Innovation gives our next spell Improvise, which is very, very solid. It just means like we can tap like our little dudes or whatever just for mana to cast the next spell. Command Tower will tap for any color. Crumbling Necropolis taps for all of our colors. Exotic Orchard, I say it for every video. The likelihood that in a pot of 4 where we have 3 opponents, that our opponents are playing a combination of blue, black, and red are so high that this is almost always like an untapped dual land or tri-land or whatever. And Vendor's Fair gains us a life at the beginning of our turn, and then we can pay 4 mana to sacrifice it to search our deck for an artifact and put it into our hand. We have Reliquary Tower to give us no max hand size because he does say we draw a card at the end of our turn, which can be, no joke. And then also Xander's Lounge just enters the battlefield tapped, and it has cycling. It's fetchable. We can't fetch it in this deck, but either way, right? Late game, like early game, it's a great turn 1. Late game, we draw it, we'll pay 3 mana, or at the end of our opponent's turn, pay 3, get rid of it. Either way, real good. And then going into basics, we have 5 islands, 4 mountains, and 4 swamps, really just because we're a bit more blue heavy than everything else, but we have so many duels that like it almost doesn't matter. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for watching. Get the cards you need from the link right down below in the bio or comment or description or whatever YouTube is. Either way, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.